I want to start off today's sermon with some questions. Is that okay? Doesn't matter. I'm behind the pulpit. All right, so some questions, okay? Do you believe that God is all powerful?
Yes.
Great. I do too. God can do anything. Do you believe that God is all loving? He is. He demonstrated that. That even though we rebelled against Him, that He sent His only begotten Son so that we might be able to have this relationship. That's a big act of love on God's part. He's all loving. This morning, do you believe that God's all knowing?
Yes.
All knowing. Me too. It's powerful when I think about God being all knowing. And I think that God being God, that as Christ is going to the cross, as Christ is God, as God in this moment, in the likeness and the image of Christ is going to the cross, that He fully knows that as He's going to the cross, how rebellious I personally am, who I am. That when He went there, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just dying for mankind. He knew me as an individual. He's all-knowing. That encompasses time, that encompasses everything. He knew exactly how much I would sin against Him, and He still went to the cross. Does that impact you in a real way? Does me. And so not for just the disciples that were standing around Him, not just for the people, the Israelites, that He could look across and He could see there, the Jews that were there in Jerusalem, not even with the knowledge of the great Roman Empire and all the nationalities that encompassed at that time, but throughout the ages, throughout eternity, Jesus Christ knew us as individuals and all of mankind when He went to the cross. And He knew what burden He was carrying to the cross that moment. And yet and still, as He was heading to the cross, as He hung there on the cross, Jesus took a moment to look to the side and to look at His disciple John and to ask John to take care of his mother. With everything that he was faced that day. Isn't that beautiful? That is a beautiful moment. Ain't none of us ever carried that kind of weight, never will carry that kind of weight. None of us have ever had that much on our mind, never will have that much on our mind. Ain't none of us ever been anywhere remotely close to that type of situation, and yet he still wanted to express his love to his mother. Mothers are just amazing. Now today, we're going to pick back up in Acts, but we are going to talk about Mother's Day. Mother's Day is very, very special, and I want to go ahead and get it out of the way, okay? Why are you giggling already? I was going to be serious. Okay, I want to get this out of the way. I know that not all mothers are perfect. Okay? I know that. I know that some people have children and have nothing else to do with them. I know that we've lost mothers. I know that there's bad mothers. I know that there's mothers that become overcome. I know that there's individuals that can't have children. I know that Mother's Day is not the same thing for everyone. I do. When I talk about Mother's Day, is several things. And I get it. It's easy to become a mother. It's not easy to be a mother. And I'm talking about the ideal of being a mother. That's what Mother's Day is all about. So, from the bottom of my heart, for those in this room that are mothers, strive to be mothers. Those of you that are at home that are mothers, God bless you. Thank you for what you do. being a mother ain't easy. Being a good mother's the hardest job I can think of. I didn't want it. I'm thankful almost every single day that I'm a man. I'm very happy with God's decision in my life. I have an amazing mother. Every Mother's Day, probably till the end of time, I just want y'all to be very, very aware of this, because I have the propensity, I have the tendency that sometimes I need to be humble, because if I do something and do something well, I'll probably brag on myself. I'm unapologetic, but I also will share a lot of my faults, and hopefully you can learn from that. On my very first Mother's Day of being married to my wife, yes, it did turn out that way. After being married to my wife and she was pregnant, we had not had a child yet. I had went out to get my most amazing mother a Mother's Day gift on Saturday, and I came back home, and on Sunday, I woke up, I told my wife, Happy Mother's Day. She's pregnant with my child after all. And I said, I got to get this gift down to my mother. And my wife was looking at me expectantly. And I didn't know why she was looking at me expectantly, but it finally came out. She was like, well, what about my gift? You're not my mother. For any of you, that's a true story. If you're not aware, that's the wrong answer. That is absolutely the wrong answer. And you should always get your wife a Mother's Day gift if she's having your children, had your children, and forever, evermore. Get her gifts on days that aren't Mother's Day to make up for that first Mother's Day. But having an amazing mother, I was gifted with an amazing mother. I'm very thankful for her. I have a wife who's an amazing mother. I'm very, very thankful for her. I've been blessed in my life. Not everyone is, but I've been blessed in my life, so we thank you for that. This message today is a big thank you to mothers, but it's also a challenge to mothers as well, because circumstances in life may not have gone your way. Maybe you're not the perfect mother. And if you really start taking tab, no one is. Maybe it's a challenge to you in how to be a mother. But the overall message today is not going to be to mothers, it's to those of us that have mothers. And here's a surprising fact. You all have mothers. So this message is for you. Wednesday night we had life group, and we didn't have like a big lesson with the kids or anything like that, but the kids came out, and I was like, this week is Mother's Day, and there's nothing that you can do that's more special, that's a greater gift for mothers on Mother's Day than to be good this week. That's it. Right? Mothers appreciate that a lot more than an apron that says kiss the cook or whatever else they get on Mother's Day, right? They want to see their kid do good. They want to see their kid succeed. And so this week, I want to look at the gift of a legacy. Have you ever thought about how you're living life, of what impact you're leaving behind, what mark you're leaving behind in life? I'm going to pick up in Acts 24, and we're going to read 1 through 21. And we've talked about this passage, so we're just going to look at it briefly. But in Acts 24, 1 through 21, we're looking at Paul, and we're looking at him as he's about to make a defense. And after 5 days, the high priest Ananias came down with some elders and a spokesman, one Tertullus, and they laid before the governor their case against Paul. And when he had been summoned, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, since through you we enjoy much peace, and since by your foresight, most excellent Felix, reforms are being made for this nation in every way and everywhere, we accept this with all gratitude. But to detain you no further, I beg in you your kindness to hear us briefly. For we have found this man a plague, one who stirs up riots among all the Jews throughout the world, and is a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. He even tried to profane the temple, but we seized him. By examining him yourself, you will be able to find out from him about everything of which we accuse him. The Jews also joined in the charge, affirming that all these things were so. And when the governor had nodded to him to speak, Paul replied, knowing that for many years you have been a judge over this nation, I cheerfully make my defense. And this is where I want you to hear. You can verify that it is not more than 12 days since I went up to worship in Jerusalem, and they did not find me disputing with anyone or stirring up a crowd, either in the temple or in the synagogues or in the city. Neither can they prove to you what they now bring up against me. But this I confess to you, that according to the way, according to Christianity, which they call a sect, I worship the God of our fathers, believing everything laid down by the law and written in the prophets, having a hope in God, which these men themselves accept, that there will be a resurrection of both the just and the unjust. So I always take pains to have a clear conscience toward both God and man. Now after several years I came to bring my alms to my nation and to present offerings. While I was doing this, they found me purified in the temple without any crowd or tumult. But some Jews from Asia, they ought to be here before you and to make an accusation should they have anything against me. Or else let these men themselves say what wrongdoing they found when I stood before the council. Other than this one thing, that I cried out while standing among them, it is with respect to the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial before you this day. And that's a mouthful, but let's really recap what's going on. Paul, because he's a Christian, has stirred up all these feelings with the Jews that are still Judaist, that they are still Israelites that are into, they're just worshiping Judaism, God, but not Christ, and they don't believe in the coming of Christ. They don't believe Christ was the Messiah. And they're so upset that Paul stirred up the things against them that he didn't, but because of what he believed, has challenged them that they want to kill him, that they took a vow to kill him. And they came up against Paul, and Paul was taken out of there, and now he stands on trial. Now, I want to put you on trial. You're falsely accused. You're falsely accused because you're a Christian. And you go before trial, and you got one shot. Man, this went, and it didn't go to the judge, it went to the Supreme Court, right? Like, you are now standing before the Governor Felix. You really got a shot. There's somebody that's got the power to throw all of this out, and you get a chance to defend yourself. Now, they ain't really brought any charges against you. As a matter of fact, if you remember last week, that when he was brought to Felix, the main man over in Jerusalem, Lysias, told Felix in front of Paul, there aren't really any charges against this man. Felix knows there's not any charges. You got this shot. You're standing there, and you're really just going to address your character. How do you do that? Paul could have said, hey, let me remind you, I am a Roman citizen by birth. I have this level of education that far exceeds most of my peers. I studied under this prominent man. Now, in my religion, I went out and I've planted this many churches, and I'm a very famous man who's well looked up to. You could talk about all your accolades. Isn't that what we would do in a court situation? If we're defending our character, we'd call in people and we'd be like, okay, this is his accolades, this is where he went to school, this is who he knows, this is the work that he's done, and everything like that. Paul doesn't do that. He could have, but Paul doesn't do that. He's not listing his accolades or anything that he's done in his own power. This is Paul's legacy. He's standing before the most prominent person he's probably ever talked to up to this point, and he's not talking about anything that he himself has done. He's talking about Jesus Christ. He's defending the resurrection. He's talking about the power of the resurrection and how that changed him and how that affected them. This was his opportunity to leave a mark. What are you doing to leave a mark? What do you spend your time and your energy and your focus on to leave a mark? How are you making mama proud this morning? Easter just passed. We talked about the tomb. It's funny when I hear the phrase leave a mark, I can't help but to think that in the end sometimes that's all that we do is leave a mark on stone. You ever walk through a graveyard and you're wondering why this one's grown up or not really tended to or whatever? Does family still come? Does anybody even know this grave is here? Who was this person? What mark did they leave behind? We work so hard at being at the top of our careers, of garnering the most possessions. But what marks are we really leaving behind? Anybody know who the Vanderbilts are? You can nod if you do. Okay. Vanderbilts at one point in time in American history were the richest family in America. They didn't really come from much. But the main Vanderbilt, Cornelius Vanderbilt, he bought a ferry and he started transporting people, but found out that he would make more money by transporting things. And so he started transporting things, bought more ships. Vanderbilt College is built in his honor, but he was one of the richest men of his time. You ever heard the name Rockefellers? Rockefellers were in the oil business, started Standard Oil. Rockefellers during their time were the richest people in America. Didn't always go that way though. Here's a little known fact about how money makes money. The Rockefellers at their particular time were in staunch competition with another group. My mind just went blank. Who it was, but both in the oil business, and the way Rockefeller really kicked off was the Vanderbilts. They started helping transport their oil. Rockefellers, come on up. A couple of generations go by, the Gettys are the richest families in America. They're also in oil. Paul Getty's famous for two things. They had a child that was kidnapped that they couldn't find. It was all over the news during their time. But also, he had went into the business with the Rockefellers, catapulted them up. He's the one that expanded oil into the Middle East, that thought, oh, if we could go over to the Middle East, we could grow. The Gettys, for about 3 or 4 generations, were the richest people in America. The Gates, Bill Gates. You know who the biggest investor in the beginning of Microsoft was? Gettys. Now, the richest family in America right now, and I never know how to say this guy's name, is Jeff Bezos from Bezos? Okay. Amazon. I think it's funny, and I don't know if there's a connection between Gates, Rockefellers, and Gettys with Bezos, but I think it's funny that one man became the richest family in America for transporting things, and now we're full circle. Right? Because Amazon, right? But anyway, the thing is that like the name may ring a bell, right? Cornelius Vanderbilt, Paul Getty, Bill Gates, all these people, John R. Rockefeller, all these people, they left their stamp on history. But guaranteed that if I had a quiz about any of their lives with you guys, you all would fail. Like their names might ring a bell. You're not going to tell me who their wife was. You're not going to be, I mean, like, you might get a couple right, and I don't want to challenge Pastor Anthony to a trivia contest, but I'm just saying, like, because he when it comes to trivia, he'll kill me. But like, we would fail because these people work so hard, sacrifice so much, lots of backroom deals, lots of stories anyway about some of the things that they did to step on people to get to where they were at, right? They did everything. They sacrificed relationships and everything to get to this pinnacle where they were considered on top of the mountain. For us to literally know nothing about them. What is their stand? How did Vanderbilt change your life? How did Rockefeller change your life? How did Paul Getty change your life? I mean, I guess you could jump out on a limb and say, well, I got gas in my car. Maybe they had something to do with that. Right? But when it comes to things that truly matter, they're just marks on stones. Now, I don't know what they mean to their family. I'd be highly impressed, as a matter of fact. I'll take that mean phone call. If one of their family members calls me today, that'd be awesome. I'll handle it. But like, you know, it's not a strike against the person. It's a strike against the fact that when we're living, and if this is our motive to accumulate, it's not going with us. It doesn't truly leave a mark. And if that's our only goal, it's not a great legacy. It don't make mama proud. Mama wants good children, right? Mama wants the best life for you that's possible. Outside of standing before my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, waiting on the words, well done, good and faithful servant, outside of that, nothing fills me up more than hearing my mama tell me that she's proud of me. Ooh, I almost teared up. I did tear up. Live a life that your mama would be proud of. 2 Timothy 1:3-7 says, I thank God whom I serve, as did my ancestors, with a clear conscience. As I remember you constantly in my prayers, night and day, as I remember your tears, I long to see you that I may be filled with joy. I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that dwelled first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I am sure dwells in you as well. For this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of my hands. For God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. And this Paul, who was defending himself, as we saw before, Felix, is writing to Timothy later on, and he's writing to Timothy and he's reminding Timothy, live a life that's good, right? And he reminded him of his grandmother and his mother, and to live in such a way that is to honor them. Remember how they were. Remember how they poured into you. I'm calling you to pour into others in the same manner, to live a legacy like that, to leave a mark. Yeah, we could sit around and we could worry about accumulation. We can worry about accumulation of materials and of prestige and of power and of accomplishments. But choose something different. Choose something different. Today I'm going to just give you a little bit of insight. It's not completely, you have to keep unpacking it and challenging yourself and everything. But you want to leave a legacy. You want to live a life that your mama would be proud of. Here's 2 ways that you can do that. You can make some choices. When given a choice in whatever you're doing, when given a choice between doing something that's going to promote you, right? Doing something, whatever it is, if it's going to promote you, if it's going to build you up, if in the end it's going to be your accomplishment, instead choose service. Choose service. Mark 10, 43, 44 says, but it shall not be so among you. But whoever will be great among you must be your servant, and whoever will be first among you must be slave of all. How do I know when to put somebody else in front of me? If whatever it is that you're doing is going to wind up being all about you, then choose to do it differently. Choose to serve. In the end, it doesn't matter. It don't. It's going to be so ironic to us how great life is in heaven. But also, it's hard to comprehend that the things that we spend so much time and energy on don't matter. They don't. I guarantee you, before I was a pastor, I did many things. I went to college, and me and Heath don't talk about it because Heath is like here, and I probably would have been like here. But before, long before this lengthy journey that I had when I was going to college to be an engineer. Different type of engineer. I wanted to be a chemical engineer, and I used to tell my mom it was because I wanted to be either a chemical engineer or a genetic engineer to help cure AIDS. That was the story. I wanted to create something pretty awesome, like Walking Dead awesome. But it didn't matter. But I was going in to be an engineer. If I had excelled to the greatest of levels, what would it matter? What would it matter at the end what plaques were on my wall? What would it matter what title I had at the end, or if I was running the company I was with? What would it have mattered? Especially if at the cost of that was a relationship with my children. At the cost of that was a relationship with my wife, or a relationship with my family, or a relationship with my community, or serving my God. I wouldn't sit up there in heaven and been like, well, you're right. You're right, God. If I had taken the time, me and my children would have been closer. If I had taken the time, I knew I was supposed to tell this person about you. I was supposed to show them this about you. But did you not see my work deadline? You know how many hours I had to put in at this company to be the CEO of technological versus robotic blah, 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 blah? And I hope God's a very abrupt God with us, and He says, shut up. It's not important. If you had the ability to choose service. And if you had the ability to choose between making a decision between the materialistic or the relation, choose love. Always choose love. John 13, 34 through 35 says, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Now, when Jesus is talking here about this type of love, He's talking about two things. He's talking about a sacrificial love that was modeled after Him and His type of love. In John 15, 13, it says, greater love has no one than this, that someone laid down his life for his friends. If you have the opportunity, always love. Always love. And He's talking about a love that's transforming love, empowered by the Spirit. In Galatians 5:22 it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. The fruit of the Spirit is love, right? And these others, but I'm focusing on love. It's a gift from God. It's in the Spirit. Now, how do we grow fruit? How do we grow fruits of the Spirit? Giving them what they need, right? Mary wouldn't let me buy an app this week. This is a good time to throw her under the bus. It's the coolest little app that I ever seen. Let me promote them. Maybe they'll pay me. The name of the app is Plantin, right? Plantin, right? And you purchase it, and then you can take a picture of a plant, and if the leaves are all droopy or the leaves got some kind of spots on it, supposedly this app will tell you exactly what to do. It will say, oh, it's being attacked by these ladybugs and you should spray this on it, or it needs water, it's 2 days without water, or whatever. This is perfect for me, right? Because I am horrible with plants. I could just go around and I could take a picture and it tells me what to do. And then I can help that plant grow. I see people nodding out there. Hey, plant in, okay? But it does cost money. It costs money, right? It's up to you whether it's worth it or not. At the Lewis family, it's not worth it. But in your family, it may be worth it, okay? But that's what we need, right? For that type of love to grow, we need like this God in. Something that shows us exactly where we're not doing. We're not abiding in His Word. It's been a couple of days, Danny. You need to abide in the Word. You need to communicate with me. You know? You need this in your life. You need to be connected in your community. You need to be pouring out. This is how that gift is going to grow. This is how that fruit's going to grow in your life. We need that in our life, and that starts by being in the Word. I don't even know what it stands for. So if I offend someone, you can call me up. I'll apologize when you explain what it stands for. But me and Mary were walking the dogs the other day. We went by a different area of houses than we normally walk by, changing it up, living that dangerous life. But as we're walking by these other sets of houses and everything, there was this giant flag on this person's house. And it was a little windy. It's been windy the last couple of days, but this flag was blowing, so I had to back up a couple times to make sure that I saw it and everything. It was a black flag. It had, I don't even know what it had on it, but the words were, God, guns, and guts. It's like, I mean, you put that on the front of your house. And I'm in the military, right? Like that literally could have been, I don't think it's an Army thing. It could be a Marine thing. I don't know what that is. But literally what you want me to know about you is God. A, hands up. Second thing that's very important to you is guns. Okay. And guts. Now, I don't really know, like, is that like courage, or is like you want to shoot my guts out? I don't know where but this is what you want people to know. Made me think. Be aware of what you're communicating. You may think, I may have knocked on that person's door and they were like, you know what? Let's think of some story that would make Pastor Danny feel real bad. My brother served in Afghanistan and he got blown up, and this was his unit's motto was God, guns, and guts, and it wasn't that he really believed in it, but I put that flag up because I'm honoring his memory. This is not a true story, so don't be all mad at me. I'm making something up. But if that person told me that story, okay, and I went in there and I came to find out that this is the sweetest person on our block and that they are the most caring, it doesn't change the fact that their very first communication to me was that what was most important to them was God, gun, and guts. Right? And this is what you communicated. Maybe you're communicating something that's not true, but regardless of that, you are communicating stuff. You are communicating to the people around you information about who you are, whether you think you are or not. Do y'all understand that? Be very responsible in the information that you're communicating. For your mama's sake. Right? For your mama's sake, be good. For your mama's sake, leave a mark that's worthy of leaving. Leave a legacy. There's no greater gift than that, to leave a good legacy behind. This morning I'm going to ask Heath to come up.